Carlos had been driving for hours. It was another ordinary night as a rideshare driver, and he was used to the monotony of city rides. Light traffic, quiet passengers, and the low hum of the radio filling the silence of the car. Everything seemed like just another shift until he received an unusual request. The pickup location was odd, a deserted road on the outskirts of the city, surrounded by dense trees. Carlos hesitated for a moment, but curiosity and the promise of a good fare convinced him. When he arrived at the indicated spot, he saw two figures standing by the roadside. They were two young women, seemingly in their 20s, dressed simply with neutral expressions. "Are you okay?" Carlos asked as he rolled down the window. "Yes, we've been waiting for you," one of them replied, her voice calm, almost cold. Carlos found the response strange but unlocked the door for them to get in. One sat in the front seat while the other climbed into the back. As soon as they closed the doors, Carlos noticed a faint smell of wet earth inside the car, even though it hadn't rained that night. "Where are we headed?" he asked, trying to sound casual. "To Blackbridge Street," the girl in the front seat said, her eyes fixed on him. Carlos frowned. He knew the city well and had never heard of that address. "I don't think there's a street by that name around here." "Are you sure?" "You'll find the way," she replied, not looking at him again. Her tone left Carlos uneasy, but he decided not to argue. He typed the name into his GPS, and, as expected, no results came up. "It's not showing up here. Can you give me another reference?" The girl in the back seat finally spoke, her voice low and melancholic. "Just keep driving. You'll know when we get there." Carlos felt a chill run down his spine. Something about the way they spoke didn't feel natural. Trying to ignore the discomfort, he put the car in gear and started driving down the road, hoping they'd provide more directions. The silence during the ride was almost unbearable. The girls didn't speak to each other, and Carlos could feel their stares, even when they weren't directly looking at him. Trying to break the tension, he asked, "Do you live around here?" "It's a bit isolated, isn't it?" "We don't live anywhere," the girl in the front seat replied, with a faint smile that felt more like a taunt. Carlos chuckled nervously, unsure of what to say. As he drove along the road, he noticed the GPS starting to behave strangely. The map moved on its own, as if showing a path that didn't exist. He tried to ignore it, but the unease grew. After a few more minutes, the girls finally broke the silence. "Turn here," the one in the front seat said, pointing to a dirt path Carlos had never noticed before. He hesitated. The entrance looked old, with rusty signs and clear signs of abandonment. "Are you sure? This doesn't look like it leads anywhere." "This is where we want to go," she insisted, her tone more assertive now. Reluctantly, Carlos turned the wheel and followed the path. The trees around them grew denser, blocking almost all the moonlight. The sound of the tires on the dirt road was the only thing breaking the oppressive silence. "Why are you going to this place?" he asked, trying to keep his voice steady. "There's something we need to retrieve," the girl in the back seat replied vaguely. Carlos thought about stopping and turning back, but the intense gaze of the girl beside him kept him in place. When they finally reached a clearing, he parked the car. In the center of the space was an old wooden bridge that looked like it was about to collapse. Beyond it, only darkness. "This is the place," said the girl in the front seat, opening the door and stepping out. The other girl followed. Carlos stayed in the car, watching as they walked toward the bridge. Something in the air felt wrong, as if the atmosphere itself was heavy. He rolled down the window and called out, "Hey, wait! It's dangerous!" The girls stopped and turned at the same time, as if their movements had been rehearsed. The one in the front seat said, "You need to come with us." Carlos felt his heart race. "What? No, I'll wait here." "If you don't come, you'll never be able to leave," she said, her calm tone making it even more terrifying. With no choice, Carlos got out of the car and followed the girls toward the bridge. As he got closer, he noticed something he hadn't seen before, marks on the ground as if something heavy had been dragged recently. "What are you looking for?" he asked, trying to keep his voice firm. The girl in the back seat pointed to the other side of the bridge. "It's over there. You'll understand when you see it." Carlos looked to the other side, but all he could see was darkness. He stepped back, but felt the cold hand of one of them grab his arm. "You can't turn back now," she said definitively. With no other choice, he followed the girls to the center of the bridge. The sound of the wooden planks creaking beneath their feet was deafening. When they reached the middle, they stopped. "Look down," said the girl in the front seat. Carlos hesitated but obeyed. What he saw froze him in place. Beneath the bridge, there was something unexplainable. A faint glow emanated from a sort of dark pit, pulsing as if it were alive. "This is what we needed to find," said the girl. Carlos felt his body stiffen. What is that?" "It's where everything ends and begins," the other replied, with an enigmatic smile. Before he could react, the girls leaned closer and whispered something he couldn't understand. In an instant, they vanished, leaving Carlos alone on the bridge with the sinister glow below him. He ran back to the car, but when he tried to start it, he realized he was no longer in the clearing. He was back on the road where everything began, but the clock showed a time that didn't make sense. Carlos could never explain what happened that night, but every time he passed that road again, he smelled the same scent of wet earth and heard voices calling out to him in the distance. Want to know more about this story and many others we still have to share? Then don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Every day, a new story comes straight from our mysterious archive, filled with tales and accounts we've gathered from various sources. Cases with stories that will give you chills. Also, don't forget to share this video with that friend of yours who loves a good mystery.